Hey everybody, Dr. Robin here with your 5-minute coaching video. Today I want to talk to you about the power of words and how they neurologically affect us. The reason this is important, and I thought it was a good conversation to have today, was because it piggybacks off of what I talked about last week, which was the difference between leaders and influencers, and how words and things that leaders do and say can elicit a reaction in people. Well, today I'm going to expand on that and talk about the neurological reasons for that. And number one, first and foremost, neurology has shown us very specific things happen in the brain when words are spoken, or more importantly, when they are something we speak to ourselves. This is why you hear a lot about getting rid of the negative self-talk. Well, there's a neurological reason for that, and I'm going to explain to you what that is. So words themselves, language, there's a language part of our brain, in case you did not know that, but also words have this way, they kickstart what we call the motivational centers of our brain. And the motivational centers of our brain, which includes our frontal lobe, is what kicks us into action. That's what's our motivational centers. That's what makes us do things or not, right? And so what can negative words do? Well, they do that and something else. What negative words do is go into the part of the brain that initializes that fight or flight response. Negative words incite the fear centers of our brains and create this neurological chemical reaction that starts that fight or flight mode. And why is that so bad? Fight or flight mode is something we're only supposed to be in extreme emergencies. Okay, in prehistoric times, it was when you were running from the lion, right? In today's world, it's a different thing, but it's still the same function. Okay, so negative words affect us neurologically in the fear centers of our mind. And depending on where you are in your life, like maybe you have a tendency to be an anxious person, or you have PTSD or an anxiety disorder, this can be debilitating. And when it's in our heads, it's worse, right? Because then it's like a looping tape, right? So this is why in therapy we work with people to remove or reduce the negative self-talk, because when we do that, we propel ourselves into a continual state of anxiety. So what do positive words do? Well, they do the same thing, but obviously in a positive way. They stimulate that frontal lobe of our brain. The language centers, like I said, those centers that produce movement and excitement and action. So obviously, we'd rather have a positive action, right? I'm excited, I want to do this, versus oh my God, I'm frightened, I better run. Okay? Same thing, action, different reaction, different response. And what happens when we have these thoughts, they literally rewire our brains. In case you were not aware, every thought you have, every word you say, creates a chemical reaction in your brain, and the neurons prune and fire up and do all the things they do. And most importantly, the parietal lobes of our brain is where it is what changes the most, and where self-talk and self-perception and all things about your self-image are housed. So if you're putting negative, what's happening? Your self-respect, your self-perception, all these things are going down, and with it, your mood and anxieties going up, and depression sets in. And something that's very important to remember, we often say, I just reacted. Well, there's a couple steps before that. It always starts with a thought, as I have said. Thought produces a chemical reaction in our brain that produces an emotion, which therefore produces a behavior. This is the essence of positive psychology, which is one of the newer fields in psychology that we use. But that is why words are so powerful. That is why Trump has been, well, he's now been let go, right? But that is why he was being called on the carpet for inciting an insurrection, because we neurologically know by planting fear in people, by planting certain words In the right environment, you can create the perfect storm, and therefore you can have a result, a consequence, right? So if we have a bad consequence, it's probably because we had some kind of bad thought, which produced an emotion, which produced a behavior, and vice versa for positive. So today I want you to think and pay close attention. Close attention. Spend a week just paying attention to your thoughts. If you have a negative emotion, stop and ask yourself, what was I thinking? And backtrack and follow back that thought and find out where the negative self talk's coming from. And if you're surrounded with people who are negative to you, end it. Okay? Because if you can't psychologically process it, you shouldn't be there. It'll destroy you. So think about the words you say to yourself, and think about the words you say to others, and think about the words they say to you. There's a very important neurological process going on that affects you psychologically, and you need to know that. And if you're working with teams, you need to know that too. If you're a parent, it's especially important, right? We all need to think about that. So just remember, your words have power, and they neurologically affect you and others. So that said, this is Dr. Robin signing off. Go to drrobingoins.com. The address is right down there. Sign up for some of my great classes, sign up for a webinar, or just call me for a consultation, whatever works for you. But words have power. Remember, what you think is what you are. Have a good day, everyone.